Hello, everybody, once again. It is your good old unfriendly neighborhood spider guy, and we're back for another episode of Let's Talk About This, of course. And what have we talked about so far? So far, we had sequels, and unicorns, and soup, and anime, and bowling. But tonight, we've got a big one. We've got a super ridiculous one, because this is something that everybody can relate to, I think, because this has been around for a long time. And, yeah, we're going to get right to it. Tonight we're going to be talking about Muppets. That's right, Muppets. So let's talk about this. Sound effect. Love that sound effect right there. That strang. So, Muppets. I actually had this suggested to me by a listener, so I can confidently say that when you guys suggest things, I do take your suggestions seriously. And this listener was somebody that I've known for quite a long time, since school days, long ago. And I'm not going to use her full name because I don't want to, I don't put people's personal information out there. But like I said, this was suggested to me by Amanda J. So hello out there. I hope you're listening. I'm sure you are, because this is going to get into one of your favorite topics and shows, I think. So what's the Muppets? What is this all about? You guys, I doubt there's anybody out there who hasn't heard of Kermit the Frog or Sesame Street or any number of these puppets that inspired a lot of your modern puppeteers. Like, you've got the guy who does what's his name? I know who it is. He's the comedian that does the puppets nowadays. And he's got the one that's like Ahmed, who's supposed to be a caricature of somebody from the Middle East and stuff like that. And he's got the pink or purple thing that's, I don't know. Jeff Dunham. That's who it is. I don't really watch him, so I don't know. Like, I've only seen a couple of his bits. I don't really watch him too much, so I don't know. But a lot of modern puppeteering was influenced, or has been influenced at some point, by the Muppets. And the Muppets have been around, like I said, for a very long time. They were created in 1955. 1955. That's a long time, at least for me, anyway. And created, of course, by Mr. Jim Henson. Anybody who knows the Muppets knows his name, because it's at the beginning of every single Muppet product. They always put Jim Henson Studios, Jim Henson Productions, that kind of thing. And he owned the rights to the Muppets all the way up until 2004, where it was bought, just like everything else is usually bought, by Walt Disney. The Walt Disney Company owns Fox. It owns everything now, just about. Not all of Fox. It owns most of their entertainment business. I don't know if it owns their news channel. That'd be pretty funny, though, if they did. So yeah, Muppets, and they're puppets. But what makes them Muppets and not just puppets is partially in how they're made. They're made to be a lot more complicated than just, a lot of people know, hand puppets. You put something over your hand like a glove that's been given a face and things, and you move your hand around, right? Muppets are, in general, a lot more work than that. There are a lot more engineering involved. You usually need 2 or 3 people for every single Muppet, even the most simple ones. And sometimes you need entire teams for some of the largest ones. And so, plus you need somebody to do the voices, because the person doing the puppeteering is not often the person doing the voices. And some of the voices are pretty iconic. The thing is, nowadays, though, a lot of the modern Muppets are not the same voices anymore, because, again, they've been around since 1955. So a lot of these people, they've either retired or they've passed on or different things. So, people there's some folks are close, but a lot of them are different. Now, just a quick note tonight also that's kind of a fun coincidence. This is the 6th episode of this podcast, and tonight is the 6th of March. 6 and 6, huh? One more 6 and we'd be in a lot of trouble, wouldn't we? Maybe not. So Muppets, back to Muppets. So what's all included with the Muppets here? And I'm sure you guys have seen. I should probably say you folks, because I don't want anybody being upset that I keep saying you guys. Like, oh, you think your show's only for men, huh? No, I'm not misogynistic. I say that as a general term. When I say, hey, you guys, it's people of any gender, of all genders, of no gender, I guess, whichever. When I say folks, when I say dudes, I call people dude all the time, even if they're male, female, whatever. It doesn't matter. So when I say you guys, I don't mean all males. I just mean everybody. Like everybody. Okay? Cool. Inclusive, right? Now, like I said, most of you folks have seen something from the list of different things that the Muppets have done. They started with a short television series called Sam and Friends. And it started out in black and white, and then it eventually got into color. And that was where you had some of your standbys, like Kermit the Frog. He showed up there. The next thing after that, after some appearances on like talk shows and advertising in the 60s, the next thing that was big from the Muppets was Sesame Street, which I can't think of a person here in the United States who hasn't heard of Sesame Street. You got Elmo, you got Big Bird, Snuffleupagus, you got all the people that live on the street. You've got Grover, Telly, all these people. I know all their names, most of them. I don't know some of the newest ones because it's not like I've watched the show in quite a long time. My daughter got into some of the older episodes for a while there, and she would watch some, but she never really got really big into it. But yeah, so a lot of you people have probably seen Sesame Street, and it's still going today in some form. Although I guess there's some kind of controversy with some of it, like they introduce things that people don't like, or they've changed some of the format, or I think they've locked some of it behind a paywall at some point. So I know that's kind of makes people grumpy here in the age of the internet and everything like that. But I watched Sesame Street when I was a kid. When I was a young kid. I also watched other things that were around at the time in the late 80s. Like I watched The Letter People. And anybody else remember The Letter People? They were cartoons and puppets involved in The Letter People. And I don't know if anybody else remembers them. But, yeah. The Letter People. So you had Sesame Street. You had The Muppet Show in the late 70s, early 80s. Then you started getting into the movies. You had the Muppet Movie, Great Muppet Caper, Muppets Take Manhattan. Great Muppet Caper is my favorite of the classic Muppet movies from that time. I just think it was funny. It had a lot of good comedy moments. It hit me where the comedy was good in at the time for me. And well, I mean, I didn't see it at the time because it was 81 and I wasn't born yet. But I did see it later on VHS and things like that. So of the ones that came out during that time, that was my favorite of the time. After that, you had I did watch the cartoon Muppet Babies. Not like a lot, but I saw some of it. You also had Muppets Tonight, which I remember. It was in the 90s, the late 90s. And it was a revival of the original Muppet Show. And the jokes were a little more cutting. They were a little more grown up, a little more adult. And I remember we were all stoked, like my family and I. We were all stayed up because it was late. We stayed up for the debut because it was supposed to be like a late night show with all your other like talk shows and things like that. And my folks were a little bit like, oh, some of these jokes aren't really child appropriate anymore. But sometimes they weren't back in the past either. I mean, we think they are now, but at the time they probably weren't. But yeah, Muppets Tonight. Then you got into the 90s movies, which are some of my favorites. You got Muppet Christmas Carol. Okay. And that had... oh, what was his name? Michael Caine. Michael Caine was Scrooge. And, oh yeah, that was a good one. I'm not into Christmas stuff, like I'm not into holidays, but Muppet Christmas Carol is a great one. And my favorite Muppet movie of all time, after that, Muppet Treasure Island. There's nothing better. It's great. The humor's just a good balance of just dumb and hilarious. The jokes are funny. The fourth wall stuff is funny. It's got Tim Curry. It's got good songs in it. Everything about it is great. Muppet Treasure Island, 1996, best Muppet movie ever. Fight me. Don't actually fight me. I don't really want to fight with you about it. We can all have our own favorite movies. I'm just saying that's my favorite. I'm not going to be mad if you say it's not yours. That's okay. Then they had Muppets from Space in '99, which was okay. I tend to think as things get more modern, they kind of lose some of the charm, some of the sparkle, you know. But that's just me. And then fast forward some more, and they've put out The Muppets in 2011, which had Amy Adams, I think. Amy Adams and somebody else. I don't know. I don't remember the dude's name. I don't. I know he's been in different things. He was on How I Met Your Mother, I think, which I didn't watch, because I don't watch those comedy shows. But I know he was on that. And then they had Muppets Most Wanted, which I have never seen, actually. There's another Muppet Babies that's done in CGI, I think. My daughter watched it a couple of times. I don't know if she was really into it or not. We haven't watched much. And then one of the most recent things they put out was Muppets Haunted Mansion in 2021, which I did watch. And I thought that was a little bit, I don't know. It fell a little flat. I wasn't as into the jokes. Some things were okay, but I felt it was more like a Disney cash grab than anything else. But that's just me. Now, what else? There's other things that are split off from the main Muppet line, and that's where Amanda J is interested in, because when she suggested it, she suggested more of this niche area, because we've watched this before. I've sat on her couch at the time. She doesn't live there anymore, but when we were a little younger, we sat on her couch and we watched this show. And I'm trying to find out when it started. Let's see. I'm going to have to look it up separately. I've got my Wikipedia pages open. And let me find out, because I want to get my dates right. Here. Okay. Because this is something that we had both watched as kids, because we're about the same age, she and I. So, we watched Fraggle Rock. And Fraggle Rock was... I loved this show. I really liked this show. I tried getting my daughter involved now in the modern age, and it's another thing that she's kind of like, okay. Like, she likes some of the Muppet movies, but she's never been into a lot of the Muppet shows. She watched a bunch of them, and she's never been like, oh, let's watch this again. She's just never been into it. But Fraggle Rock came out... Let's see, where was it at? It came out in 1983. And it was different. It's like a lot of your Muppet stuff, it's all like modern stuff. It takes place in modern cities, pardon me, and they interact with humans and things like that. It's just a regular thing. And you're like, oh, yeah, Muppets. Like, you treat them like they're regular characters. Kind of like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where you got the cartoons and things like that, and people in the cartoons, they live together, you know, and it doesn't seem weird. That's the Muppet universe. But Fraggle Rock was different. Fraggle Rock took place in like this entirely different like fantasy land that was connected to modern world by a series of tunnels. Okay, you could get there, and they didn't reveal themselves to a real person until pretty late in the season. In the series, because there's a lot of seasons. It went on for several years. Now, Fraggles was great, because it all took place in this underground world with its own self-contained ecosystem, their own self-contained food and supplies and all this other kind of stuff. And they had their own little above-ground area that dealt with... And let me make sure that I've got their names right. The not the Gorgons. It was the... Oh, what is it? it's been so long since I've seen some of this stuff that I my brain gets weird. So I'm going to take a look at characters. I'll look at the characters here. The Gorgs. So I was close. Not Gorgons, the Gorgs. And the Gorgs were full-size. They were people in full-size costumes, and they would walk around and do things. So they were giant in compared to the Fraggles, who were supposed to be tiny, right? And what's funny is that the Fraggles used to call places like the real world, they used to call them outer space, right? And this all sounds kind of like, okay, I guess is it funny? I don't know. You have to see it to know what I'm talking about. And so next time, go ahead and see it. My favorite character from that show, and don't think I'm trying to be funny, and don't think it's like an adult show, because it's not. It's just a name that they gave him. Okay? My favorite character is Boober. I know. Oh, he said boob. No, get away from that. That's not this kind of show. But he's always like, which is funny because he's not like I am at all. I am, well, scratch that. He's half like me and half not like me. One half of him is just constantly like, super practical, super grumpy, super, that's me. The other half is like real superstitious and real nervous and real kind of Wade Duck from Garfield. Kind of like, oh no, something terrible is going to happen, I just know it. And that's not like me at all. But it's still, I found him to be a great character, because he was always like the one that, when it came right down to it, you had to like hope that he was going to go out and help everybody or something like that. And he'd have to get put on the spot, so. Yeah, Fraggles. Big fan of Fraggles. And you can watch, I don't know if you can watch any episodes of Fraggles on TV. I have them downloaded, which is not the best quality. I know that Amanda J has the entire collection on DVD, because that's what we watched it on. And one of these days we have to finish, because we never got through the whole series. We got through a bunch of it, but we didn't get through the whole thing. And there's one episode that was really good. It scared me as a kid, actually. It scared the crap out of me. It was about the sea monster. And she'll know what I'm talking about. I don't know if you guys will, but if you guys have ever seen it and you remember the sea monster episode, it scared the crap out of me as a kid, but it really wasn't anything to be scared about. And there was another, I guess there's a new one. I've never seen it though. Apple TV has Fraggle Rock Back to the Rock that premiered in 2022, so it was just last year, and I've never taken the time to go see it, so maybe I will. But back to the Muppets as a whole. Fraggle Rock's good, you guys should go see it, but back to the Muppets. Some of the main characters, and I'm sure you guys, like I said, I'm sure some of you folks have heard of them before. You got Kermit the Frog, of course, Miss Piggy, Fozzie Bear, you got Gonzo. Everybody loves Gonzo, right? Ralph the dog. Ralph, he's one of my favorites too, because he's always got that, he's got that sarcasm, and he plays the piano. It's just like, oh boy, here we go again. That's Ralph. You got Rizzo. Rizzo's great. Beaker and Bunsen and Beaker, yeah, and Statler and Waldorf always making fun of every performance that they do. It's great. There's a lot of fourth wall breaking in Muppets. There's a whole bunch of it, and that's kind of the charm for it. It pulls you in, it makes you an audience participant almost. And I'm kind of on the edge about different things like that. I don't go to local showings of stuff like Rocky Horror Picture Show. Not because I'm against anything in the film or the stage show or anything. I'm not, bigoted about stuff. I don't like to get involved on a physical level with stuff like that. I don't want people to come up and poke at me and get me to join in and things like that. I don't like that. I don't like to be touched like that. But I don't mind other people that get into that and get all dressed up and do your thing, right? But I like Muppets because it's like they're including you. But they're not poking and prodding and yanking on you. They're just hey, we're telling jokes to you. You're watching us on the thing. So you're a part of the story, in a way. So, characters. And then we got the Swedish Chef. Right? Now that I just did that thing, if you don't know anything about the Muppets, you're going to be like, what? What? Or if you haven't seen the Muppets and you heard me say Swedish Chef, you're thinking I'm being really offensive. But I'm not. It's a fun gag. You should, and I'm not trying to like. You should go see it. You should go see it. My favorite was Sweetums. Sweetums. He's a full size. He's like the Gorgs. He's like the Gorgs from Fraggles. He's a full size. He's a person in a full size costume, and he always comes off like he's supposed to be super menacing and like he's always like like he's a big monster, right? And monsters are a big thing about Muppets. Like they've always had people who are just monsters. They're just random creatures that are thought up, and they're monsters, and they all have gags and stuff. And not gags like they're wearing gags over their mouth, but they have jokes and they have sketches and things that are specifically around the monsters. And Sweetums is my favorite because he just he always comes out of nowhere with something. Like in Muppet Treasure Island, he's one of the pirates, right? And they're doing this big battle towards the end. They're battling out with swords and stuff, and it's funny because they're puppets fighting the swords. And he comes running around a corner. He's got a big tree limb, and he's a full-size person. He's got a big tree limb, and they think, "Oh no, look out!" And he hits some of the other pirates and saves them all. And they're like, "Oh, you saved us. Well, thanks, but why?" And he's like, "Are you kidding? I love you guys. Ha ha ha!" And then he runs off to fight somebody else. It's great. It's great. Sweetums is great. In the original Muppet movie, they're on their way to Hollywood, or they're on their way to something to get famous or to get relevant or something like that. I don't remember what the whole deal was with it. But he's along for the ride, and they leave him like at a gas station or a rest stop or something. And he spends the rest of the film trying to catch up to him on foot. It's funny. It's great. Sweetums. Look it up. Look it up. This is real stuff. This is real important content. You guys can go listen to whatever podcasts you want about true crime and ghosts and goblins and stuff like we do on This Uncanny Earth. But this right here, this is masterpiece level. This is Muppets. Masterpiece level. Oh, pardon me. And there's just so much to it. Like, Muppets have been everywhere. And there's even some things that don't count as Muppets that grew out of the whole Muppet umbrella. Okay. And while most of them more modern ones that are outside of the somebody next door's alarm's going off. But a lot of the more modern ones that are outside of the Muppets core lineup are they're a little darker. They're a little different. If you guys have seen the movie Labyrinth with David Bowie, of course, that had puppeteering that was basically from the Muppet workshops, and they're not considered Muppets, but they're Muppets. The Dark Crystal. The Dark Crystal is a dark movie, not just called because it's the Dark Crystal, but man, it's like they steal the souls of these things and they use them to live forever. Most of everything in there is all basically from the Muppet workshops. Even Yoda from the original 4, 5, and 6 Star Wars movies. He was basically designed the similar as the way that the Muppets are. And he was performed by Frank Oz. Frank Oz was a big performer. He's actually still around. He's a puppeteer, and he does a lot of puppet voices and things like that. He did the voice for Yoda. And however, it does mention here in my little article that Yoda wasn't, like, Jim Henson didn't have anything to do with the Star Wars puppets. But still, a lot of that technology, a lot of that engineering went into Yoda, went into Jabba the Hutt, went into a lot of the different aliens that you see, before they got into the CGI in the other movies, right? So Muppets they've been everywhere. They've influenced everything, just about. Like, there's so much stuff. And back in the original Muppet show, they had so many guests on. Like, they had Alice Cooper, they had Gilda Radner, they had all kinds of people. And they had John Cleese from Monty Python. All these people as guests. And, yeah. It's a cultural thing. It's not just like some little like footnote. And there's been some controversy. Disney got rid of... Let me find his full name here. Steve Whitmire. They got rid of him, who was the voice of Kermit. And several other different people. And that there was some controversy involved with all that. I don't remember what it was all about. I remember being kind of grouchy about it, but, you know, it happens. But the Muppets have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which, you know, you guys know me. I'm not into hero worship and stuff. I don't go for autographs from people. I'm not, like, it's not a big deal to me. But it's interesting that a bunch of puppets would have their own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, right? And they've been in so many things. Like, Kermit the Frog was interviewed on The Daily Show. He guest hosted The Tonight Show, Jimmy Kimmel Live, Extreme Makeover, America's Funniest Home Videos, Larry King. He was the Grand Marshal for the Tournament of Roses parade once. And these are puppets. These are puppets. You know? But they're so big. They're just... And you can't help but just like them. Because there's so much in there to look at. Like, you can... You've got the Muppet fourth wall breaking audience inclusion. You got the big stories, like the big films. You've got stuff like Fraggles, which is a little bit more niche. You've got the darker stuff like Labyrinth and Dark Crystal. You've got so many things. And the Jim Henson Creature Shop is still doing this kind of stuff. There's a lot of things out there. I know most of our big entertainment that involves non-human stuff that's not like animal actors. And even then, a lot of times with the animals, they do CGI for them just as much as they do the scary stuff. Because it's safety. You don't want to harm the animals and stuff like that. And I get that. But there's so much stuff that's CGI nowadays, and Muppets it's just fun how they interact on a real basis. Like, people just interact with a Muppet. Like, oh yeah, you're a real person. I'm talking to you, not that you're a person with like 3 people running your arms and legs and stuff. You're a person. I'm interacting with you, and they give off that sense whenever you see them. It's inclusion, again, like I said. And I love it. I like it. I don't like every single thing that's under the Muppets umbrella. But I do like a lot of it, because it's funny. It's and like I said, it's inclusive. That's the big thing. And I know that's a big word these days. Inclusive, inclusion. Those are like big topics nowadays. And people use them for gender stuff and for racial stuff and for this and that and all kinds of things right now. But the Muppets are kind of beyond all that stuff. Because they're every color you can imagine. They're every nationality. They're every single species. There's cats, dogs, frogs, aliens, monsters, anything. And you can be friends with any of them. And that's what they do. And they can bring people together in a good way. You know, they even got me talking all philosophical now about it. But I've grown up with Muppets. I've grown up with Fraggles, like I said. Fraggles was one of my favorite shows as a kid. We grew up with the early Muppet movies. Muppet Christmas Carol, Muppet Treasure Island. Again, best movie with Muppets, hands down. Muppet Treasure Island. And I'm not changing my story. I'm sticking to it. I'm sticking to that. And I'm not into musicals either. And they frequently have like sing-alongs and stuff like that. And I'm not usually into that kind of stuff. And I'm not into Motown. And they usually have Motown songs and stuff in a lot of their modern things. It's like their big deal. But I still I like Muppets. I like them. I'm a Muppet enthusiast, I guess you could say. And I think anybody can be. I think there's something out there for everybody involving the Muppets. And I've said that already, but I'm saying it again. So, yeah. So, there you go. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can throw on this. There's a film by Peter Jackson called Meet the Feebles from 1989 that deals with Muppet-like characters, but it's a really dark movie. A lot of dark black humor, not black humor like racial humor. I don't mean that. I mean like just dark humor as the color, not the skin color. There was another movie. There was something else that came out not too long ago that Sesame Street got upset about because it dealt with like a very similar vibe to Sesame Street, but the characters were like far more adult, and they were into all kinds of adult stuff, and one of them was a murderer, and they were on their kids show trying to find a killer and things like that, and they got mad, and they had like a complaint. I think they sued the people making the movie. I don't remember, because it made them look bad or something like that. I don't know. So there is sometimes some controversial stuff as far as Muppets go. And with the modern Disney run, I don't think it's as good as it used to be. I mean, I know they've had them since 2004, but when I say the modern Disney run, it's within the last, 10 years or so, where Disney has been trying to kind of reinvent a lot of different things. Like, they're trying to redo a lot of their old movies and live action and flip things around and stuff like that. And change paradigms or change plot points and do stuff like that. And I'm just not into a lot of it. Like, I'm not into their Star Wars run so far. I'd like to be. Star Wars was huge when I was a kid for me and all through my young adult life. But I can't get into the Disney Star Wars so much. I can't. I've tried. And I know they own Marvel and they've done a lot of that kind of stuff, but there's just too much of that. It's oversaturated. There's so much superhero Marvel stuff that goes on all the time, and I can't keep up with it. I can't stay interested. So as far as Muppets go, I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm worried about the future of the Muppets, but I am kind of concerned. Because, I don't know, Disney seems to be dropping the ball left, right, and center on everything lately. Like, they just don't seem to know what it is that people actually want and how to give it to them. So, and I don't want this to turn into like a Disney hate show. That's not what I'm doing. That's not what I'm all about. I'm just airing some grievances, I guess. Airing some grievances. So I hope that in the future, with more Muppet stuff that comes out, and now that I know that there's a new Fraggle Rock show, I'm going to have to go back and take a look. I don't have Apple. I have an Apple TV, reluctantly. I don't like Apple products. I don't. And again, not to turn this into a entirely separate show, but I don't like Macs. I don't like iPhones. My daughter has an iPad because she'd gotten one from my parents when she was younger to use for schoolwork and stuff. And so when that broke, we got her another one because she was already used to it. I have an iPod, but not because I really wanted one, but because it was free. I liked my MP3 players better. But we have an Apple TV, the little stream box. We got it from some kind of contest. I don't know. It was free too. I wasn't gonna pay for it, and I don't like it. I don't like the thing at all. Like I don't. I like having the various media apps all there, but even apps and things, I don't. Apps on my phone were one thing. Having apps on my TV, I'm a grumpy old man. I'm grouchy. I don't like apps on my TV, but that's what I got. And yeah, so I guess I got Apple TV, but I don't think I have. It's Apple TV Plus. Like everybody's adding a plus because that's the one you pay for. The regular without the plus is what you get for free, and the plus is what you pay for. So Apple TV Plus, getting back around to the point, has new Fraggle Rock from 2022. And I suppose I should look it up. I might just look for some backdoor methods and try to pick up the episodes someplace else, which is, probably likely to get my show canceled, but who cares? I might do that rather than try to pay for something extra from Apple to see if I can watch it. Because if it's not good, I'm going to be kind of grouchy. But I'm grouchy anyway. You guys know that. You folks know that. I'm grouchy anyway. But I'd like to see how that turns out, because Fraggle Rock was a big part of my childhood, just like a lot of the other Muppet stuff was. I remember seeing Muppet Babies way, way back in the late 80s, super early 90s. When I was a really young kid, we had a house fire, lost our whole house, lost everything we owned. And I remember watching Muppet Babies in that house. Not so much later on. Not so much in where we lived after that. But in that house, I remember watching Muppet Babies, the original. So it's kind of got some nostalgia there. But yeah. So that's about it. That's about all I got for you. Once again, I'd like to make some recommendations. Muppet Treasure Island, for one. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's fantastic. And it is on streaming services. I don't remember which ones. No, I do know. It's on Disney Plus, because of course it's, Disney owns Muppets now. It's on Disney Plus. They have the majority of the Muppet stuff, and I think they have the original Muppet show as well. They might even have some of Muppets Tonight, the revival in the 90s that was a bit more adult-oriented. And when I say adult, I don't mean like it's puppets having physical relations with each other, because that's something else. That's Team America World Police. That's not part of the show. But, like I said, they have the majority of everything Muppet there. So Disney Plus, the Disney Plus app. Muppet Treasure Island, you want to watch that. And I don't know where you can watch or stream Fraggle Rock. Maybe on YouTube. Maybe on Tubi, Tubi. It's another TV show app. Or you can just, if you're savvy, you can see about downloading some episodes. But you got to be, into that sort of thing and know where to go and whatnot, right? Have your proxies set up. So that's two things that I think you should watch if you want to get into Muppets. Or if you just want to, like, if you haven't watched Muppets in a while, and you're like, oh man, I should go relive some Muppet years, then Muppet Treasure Island and Fraggles. They do have a separate sideshow that had nothing to do with the Fraggles themselves. They had a Doozers show that my daughter watched a bunch. It was, what was it on? It was on Noggin or something. I don't remember what app it was on. I don't know. Maybe Hulu, of all places. Doozers. Because the Doozers exist in the Fraggle universe. I'm not going to get too much into it because you need to see it for yourself. But they have a whole CGI spin-off show that's a lot more modern. It's from the mid-2000s. Mid-2010s. And I don't know. It's okay. I don't watch it as an adult really, but my daughter, like I said, when she was a little younger, she's 9, she's not 9 yet. She's 8 now. She's gonna be 9 in October, so it's quite a ways away. But a few years ago, when she was a bit younger, she watched it, and she seemed to like it. But there's no Fraggles, and I don't think it ever mentions Fraggles. It doesn't mention anyone other than the Doozers and maybe some actual because apparently they go outside sometimes in the real world where there's birds and stuff. And so it's a bit disconnected. It's the same basic species, but they were transplanted, or I don't know. If you watch it and you compare it to Fraggles, you'll know what I mean. But there's that. I don't know if I can recommend that because I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it. I know my daughter watched it, and it was okay. Okay. So, housekeeping. What else do I got left? Today is Monday, so that means tomorrow it's going to be Tuesday. So it's going to be another episode of Twitch Tuesday. I'm running out of new games to play, so I might just stream something for fun, just to take a break. We'll see. I might stream that wizardy game that we're not supposed to talk about because of controversial reasons. I finished it, actually. I finished the main story, and you can still run around after the fact and play around with that. Or I might stream something else. Who knows? We got that. Wednesday is a free day. Don't have anything going on Wednesday. Thursday is another episode of the Uncanny Spirits Club, gearing up towards St. Patrick's Day, which is next week. And I'll have an announcement about that on Thursday. I will have an announcement about St. Patrick's Day. So that's Thursday. And then Friday, of course, we have another episode of This Uncanny Earth. And I believe we have a guest. So that'll be Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then Saturday, you have another episode of my new mini-series, The Saturday Spiritualist. And that will be on the This Uncanny Earth YouTube channel. As for this episode, if you want to listen to it again, it'll still be up here on Spreaker. Or, after today, it will also be on YouTube. It'll be on iTunes. It'll be on Apple Podcasts, Google. It'll be anywhere that you can listen to a podcast. Spotify. You can go to Spotify and listen to it. Definitely like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, because every time you play, it adds a penny to... it adds a penny to my wallet. I get a penny per unique listen. So if you haven't been binge watched, let me see if I can say that better. If you haven't binge watched the other 5 episodes, do that after this, and then listen to this one again because it was a good one. So yeah, that's what's upcoming for the rest of the week. And I hope you guys enjoyed. I had a good time. Had a good time talking about Muppets to all you folks. Once again, thank you to Amanda J for... well, actually, it's not really Amanda J anymore, is it? I'm still going to call you that, because that's what I know you as. But that's... yeah, it's not J anymore. It's something else. It's something else, isn't it? It is. It's going to take me a little bit to get used to that, I think. But, yeah. Anyway, thanks to you for making the suggestion, which was basically just a Fraggle Rock suggestion that I took and expanded into a Muppet suggestion. But I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you had a good time. That's all I got for you. Tune in tomorrow for Twitch Tuesday on my Twitch channel. DMGRGN. Have a good night.